We're going to use part of our network for this next particular feature demo, and this does pop up on occasion. You might find yourself needing to advertise a network via EIGRP, but you don't want unnecessary traffic going out that same interface. And in this particular case, the way we have it set up right now, router 1 is using serial 1/0, but that's okay for the interface. It's on 172.12.123.0/24, just like router 2. The adjacency is already there. And what we want is for router 1 to have the 172.12.23.0/27 network in its EIGRP routing table. Problem is, when we do that, we're going to generate some traffic we might not want because we don't have any other EIGRP enabled devices off of that interface on router 2. So we're always interested in cutting down unnecessary traffic, and we're going to see quite a bit of it here in just a moment, I do believe. Let's go ahead and bring our routers up. And I've removed router 3 here entirely, and I've removed the config, any config from the previous lab as well. So we've got our EIGRP neighbor relationship going on with router 2. There it is, no problem at all. And show IP route, EIGRP, nothing yet. We'll go down to router 2 and change that. And we'll do a network 172.12.23.0.000/31. Let's head up to router 1. And the route's already there. So we ping 172.12.23.2, and we're good as gold. But I believe we said we didn't have any EIGRP enabled interface, devices off of router 2's fast Ethernet interface. So we don't want to send hellos out there, but we still want router 1 to know about this network. So how in the heck are we going to do that? Well, first I want to show you this traffic. And debug EIGRP packet is a good way to do it. And this shows you all kinds of traffic, as you can see. And let's see what we've got here. We've got hellos going out fast Ethernet 0/0. Look how fast they're going out. They're going out every 5 seconds according to our timestamp. And that is a lot of unnecessary traffic. Why send it if you don't need it? If there are no other EIGRP enabled devices on off fast Ethernet 0/0, why send it? So first off, we're going to turn this off. And we'll do a UAll there. That's short for undebug all. And what we're going to do is make the fast Ethernet 0/0 interface passive. And when you make an interface passive in EIGRP, what you're doing is no longer sending hellos out that particular interface. That's where the passive part comes in. So let's go ahead and see exactly how we do that. We're going to do it not on the interface level. It's really easy to think, well, it's passive interface, you put it on the passive interface, you put it on the interface. You don't. You actually go into the protocol and configure it. And you can see we've got our choices of many interfaces, but we're going to take the one we wanted here, which is fast Ethernet 0/0. And so far, that's it. We're not going to lose any adjacencies because we didn't have any to lose. Let's just make sure nothing changed with the one we had. And nothing changed. There's no reason for it to, because again, we turned the hellos off on fast Ethernet 0/0, not the serial interface. But to prove that, what are we going to do? We're going to debug. And we're not going to see a whole lot of packets come in here because, of course, on the serial interface, they're pretty far apart. Definitely further apart than the Ethernet ones, which are every 5 seconds. So there's a hello being sent out serial 010, and there's a hello being received from the neighbor. This is a handy little debug to get started with on some troubleshooting. It at least shows you where hellos are going and when they're coming in, and of course in this case where they're not going, because you can see as before when we were getting one message after another about those Ethernet, about the EIGRP hellos going out the Ethernet interface or fast Ethernet every 5 seconds. Now they're not going out at all. So that's a good thing. But what we need, of course, is what? We need router 1 to still have that route in its table. Let's go up and make sure that that happened. Yep, there it is. And you can see by the timer, 3 minutes, 14 seconds, it never left. So let's go ahead and do a ping. And there you go. Now, there's another way to do this. Isn't there always another way to do this? There's a great option for this, and I'll go back to 2 and show you. Let's say that you had only one interface on your router that you didn't want to be passive. Let's say in this case it's serial 0/1/0 on router 2. That's the only one I don't want to be passive. I want every other one to be passive, and I want every other one anybody uses in the future to be passive by default. We can actually do that. And how we're going to do it, first off, I'm going to take off the little passive interface statement I had before. And let's add a new one. Because in the middle of all of these interface types, look at the very bottom. This is not in alphabetical order. Because I've had people say, well, I was looking for the default option and I saw dialer and fast Ethernet and GMPLS. Well, they stuck default in here down at the bottom. So don't let that freak you out, because I'm going to be honest with you, as I always am. It freaked me out the first time I saw it. I was looking up here where, C, D, and E were, because that's the way we've been taught at this point. I mean, our eyes automatically do that. But default is down near the bottom of this list. So if I put passive interface default, that means every interface on the router is going to be passive. So let's do that. Now I don't want 0/1/0, my serial interface, the one that just went down, interface passive. Notice the neighbor went down immediately. Then I just put no in front of passive interface, and then specify the one I don't want to be passive. So that's how you do it. You actually have 2 commands involved. First, you make every interface on the router passive by default with passive interface default. Don't forget to look near the bottom of the list. And then you can put no passive interface and specify the interfaces you don't want to be passive. I'm going to pause this and wait for the adjacency to come up, and then we'll move on. Well, as you can see, that took a few minutes, but it has come back up. Not exactly sure what the heck the problem was, but then all of a sudden, wham, we started getting everything back. So we're sending our hellos now. They're going out just fine, and they're coming in just fine. And I'll do a quick UAll here. Show IP EIGRP neighbor. So I like working with the real stuff. When I've taught classes in person over the years, whenever I mention, by the way, that doesn't always work the way the book says, I just get these blank stares from people like, what do you mean? It's like, you'll find out. But we do have our neighbor relationship back. And right now, every single interface on the router is passive as far as EIGRP is concerned, except for the serial interface. So if we wanted to open one of the other interfaces later and have EIGRP running over it normally, then and form adjacencies, we would need to do no passive interface for that particular interface as well. That is it for passive interfaces. More EIGRP on the next vid.